Hello, everybody. And a very warm welcome to the finals, the Swiss finals of the FameLab competition. So I am Anna, and I am very pleased to be able to lead you through this evening tonight. And I've been a participant in FameLab myself in 2021. And back then, sadly, during COVID times, it was still very much an online event. And so I am extremely glad to be able to welcome a live audience here today. And yeah, are you looking forward to hearing some science? Wonderful. I am not the only one who wants to welcome you here tonight. There is also Sophie Michael. She's here from the British Embassy. She's the Second Secretary of Economics and the Head of Prosperity. And I would like to welcome her on stage to say a little welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Anna, and welcome everybody. It's great to be here tonight. It's a real pleasure to welcome you all again to the FameLab Switzerland final, bringing together talented young science communicators from all across Switzerland every year. Congratulations to all the finalists on making it this far. I wish you the very best of luck for this evening. I'd also like to thank the organizers, the jury, and all the partners of FameLab Switzerland for organizing this great competition and for their continued cooperation with Cheltenham Festivals. FameLab is a great example of international partnership between the UK and Switzerland, and it's an initiative that has established itself firmly in Switzerland over the years, thanks to all your efforts and enthusiasm. Science communication has an important role to play in the world. There's great need for clear and accessible science to inform both policy development and also public debate on the challenges that we all face. There are strong links between UK and Swiss research institutions and universities already, and both of our countries are known for their science excellence. Initiatives such as FameLab help to continue that relationship by supporting growth and fostering links between the UK and Swiss science communication communities. Our science and technology ambition depends on a strong and varied network of international science and technology partnerships, and Switzerland is one of our most important partners. And to that end, we recently signed a memorandum of understanding on cooperation in science and innovation last year. There's been lots of progress between our two countries, and there's more to come in the months ahead. On that note, I hope you'll allow me to take the opportunity to flag briefly an initiative that our embassy is running. We'll soon be launching our 2024 Ambassador for a Day competition, which this year will focus on climate and specifically the cryosphere. And the winner will have the opportunity to practice science diplomacy firsthand with us, so please do keep an eye out on our social media pages for that. So my team and I look forward to working with many of you and your institutions on future cooperation projects, and I wish everybody a very enjoyable evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. Right. So with this, let us start into the evening, and let me briefly introduce what we are doing here today and how this is all going to happen. Do the slides move, or do I? Ah, perfect. So, the FameLab competition is the largest science communication competition in the world, with more than 35 countries participating and more than 9,000 participants all around the world. And the participants stand before an extremely challenging task, and that is, within just 3 minutes, to present a scientific topic in a way that is clear, understandable, and also fun, interesting, and entertaining. The talks can be from any scientific field, so you will see that we're going to hear from a really broad range of scientific topics today. And the goal is really to make science accessible. And this is important because science is fundamentally a publicly funded adventure, right? It is the way that we as a society try to better understand the world that we live in. And so bringing that new knowledge, that science from the labs to the people is really a very important part of that mission. And that is what all the young scientists that you're going to see on stage here today are doing. So, as I said, the talks are going to be 3 minutes only. And this is a competition. So the participants are going to be judged, both by you and by an audience, by a panel of judges. And what are they going to be judged on? Well, the criteria are the 3 C's. Sorry, I'm still at the slide before. The 3 C's. So they are content. Are they talking about something interesting? Is the science sound and correct what they are telling us? Clarity. Is it understandable? Even if you heard about it for the first time today and you haven't studied anything like it. And third, but not least, charisma. Are they making it fun? Are they making it interesting and entertaining? Does it move you? And does it make you to want to know more? So now, let me introduce the 3 judges of tonight that are going to judge our participants. So we have here tonight Cornelia Eisenach. She is a science journalist at the online magazine Republik. And she comes from a science background herself. She's done a PhD in molecular biology and has then switched to the field of science journalism. Then we have Michael Hengartner. He is the president of the ETH board. And before that, he's been the president of the University of Zurich. And he as well holds a PhD in molecular biology. And finally, we also have Natascha Hedrich. She's a physicist and a science communicator. She works at Focus Terra, the Earth and Science Discovery Center of ETH. And she is also last year's Swiss national winner of FameLab. So she definitely knows what she's talking about. So, yeah, please have a round of applause for our 3 wonderful judges. But those 3 are not the only people who are going to judge our participants tonight, because you, both the online and the on-site audience, are also going to have a vote. And this vote is going to happen on the platform Mentimeter. So after we've all heard all of the participants' talks, there's going to be a QR code up that you can scan. And on this link, you can vote for the presentation that you personally liked best and that you think has best represented all 3 C's. So with this, I just want to quickly show you all of the organizations and institutions that have made FameLab possible this year. A great thanks goes out to everyone who has been involved in the organization of this wonderful event. With this, we can basically start. So we're going to have talks from 9 participants now. And after each talk, the jury is going to have the chance to ask them 1 or 2 questions if they want. And after all 9 talks, the jury is going to leave and discuss their decision. And we are going to have a little Q&A session with all of the participants and the audience here. And then we're going to have a break. You can have some drinks at the bar. And then we will all come back and hear the decision of the judges and celebrate our new national FameLab champion. So without further ado, let us start on the talks. You're going to hear tonight from everything about tiny bacteria in the ground up to giant satellites in the sky. You're going to hear from chemistry, biology, psychology, and medicine. And you're going to hear from scientists who have come from all over Switzerland here to Bern today to share their passion with you. So give them a huge round of applause whenever they come on stage, please. So let us start with the very first participant. That is Matthias Herzog. And he has confided in me before the start of the show that since he was very fascinated with nature, even as a child, he has actually ate a lot of earthworms as a kid. So I'm glad that it hasn't hurt him much, and we can welcome him here on stage tonight.
Okay, so let's dive right into an exciting game of table tennis. Well, maybe not the kind you would expect. Imagine your gut as a huge table tennis tournament with billions of tiny bacteria as your players, represented by these colorful table tennis balls in this jar. These players make up what we call the gut microbiome. And these and they fight against these opponents here, some nasty pathogenic bacteria. This here represents a healthy gut microbiome, diverse, vibrant, and thriving. Just like in a game of table tennis, a variety of players with different strengths and skills make up for an exciting game. Similarly, a healthy gut microbiome is also essential for your overall health. It helps you to digest food, it trains your immune system, and it can even improve your mood. Look at this jar. This one is always only halfway filled, and there are only a few species of table tennis balls inside. So this represents an unhealthy gut microbiome, one with low diversity and only and missing species. So in the gut microbiome tournament, this is like playing table tennis with only a few players, all using the same strategy. So not much fun and also not very effective. But a healthy gut microbiome is not just important for your own health, it could also help us fight against the massive public health crisis that we're facing right now, and that's the antibiotic resistance crisis. This crisis already claims 700,000 lives a year, and it may take up to 10 million lives if we don't take action. So think of this crisis as playing table tennis against opponents that keep getting better and better in understanding our strategies. So to win the game, we need to find new ways of preventing and treating infectious diseases. And our gut microbiome and the gut microbiome of the animals around us could be our secret weapon in this game. How? Well, first, a healthy, diverse gut microbiome can protect you or minimize the risk for foodborne diseases. Just like a skilled player in table tennis can return tough shots, a healthy, diverse gut microbiome can fend off harmful bacteria. And secondly, it seems like a healthy, diverse gut microbiome is even able to prevent pathogens like this from sharing their best tricks on how to resist against antibiotics. So this is like preventing your opponents from learning each other's best moves, making it harder for them to win the game. So how can you support a healthy gut microbiome? Well, eat a healthy, balanced, and fiber-rich diet. Make sure you avoid unnecessary antibiotics, and buy your meat from organic farms that use antibiotics responsibly. In the meantime, scientists are trying to develop new ways of improving your set of players. So keep those table tennis tactics sharp and aim for a happier, healthier future. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias. Great talk. Always hard to be the first one and start, right? But I think you did a really, really good job.
Thank you.
Let's turn to our judges and see whether they have any questions for you.
Okay, I'll start right. First of all, thank you for the great talk.
Thank you.
Having been there, I know how it is. So I'm going to start with something you mentioned at the very end. You said scientists are working to figure out how we can improve our gut microbiome. Could you maybe say something more about this?
Yeah, so there's, in this area of research, there's a lot of unknowns. So I'm very careful in what I say, obviously, with some of the statements as well. So what we're trying to do is basically understand which of these microbes in the healthy gut microbiome are actually important to protect us from pathogens, right? So which are the competitors that compete best against these? So which are the microbes we need to fill our guts up if our microbiome looks like this?
Is there another question? Otherwise, we can move on. By the way, I love those little table tennis balls. You have to look at them after the show. They're like really beautifully hand painted. Yeah, so there's something you can only appreciate from the stage, though. Thanks a lot, Matthias.
Thank you.
And you can sit down again, I think. And maybe take
this with me?
take the microbiome with you. Great. So we're going to come to the second talk. Let's welcome on stage Anton Kudashev. He has shared with me before the show that he is terminally addicted to sharks. He has assured me that he does not mean eating them. So please welcome him on stage, and I'm very excited to hear what he has to talk about.
Greetings, my name is Anton, and I'm an organometallic chemist. I make matters more complicated, this time around, with metals. And here is my pet brick of gold. Beautiful, absolutely priceless, but ultimately a little bit useless. Sure, it will never tarnish, but is this really it? Well, for starters, gold is a very nice material to work with, so you can do quite a lot of stuff with it, like jewelry or microchips. But what about chemistry? Well, as it turns out, there's a little bit of chemistry going on the surface of our brick. Granted, very elementary chemistry, like reduction of gases, but that's a start and an immediate end, because that's about as much as we can get away with elemental gold. To do something truly outstanding, we have to go beyond elemental. You might object, gold is a noble metal. It's supposed to be inert. Well, I have to say, there's something called aqua regia, or royal water, which tends to disagree and just dissolves everything, including gold. Congratulations, you have dissolved 60,000 francs in a beaker. Now what? Well, now this gold is bound to other atoms, or is a part of something that is called a complex. And depending on what you bind to this gold, molecules or ions, you can do some truly outstanding transformations. Well, I have to admit, gold is a little bit more niche, it's a little bit more laboratory use, but this principle applies to all the other noble metals. Just to name a few, ruthenium complexes are an absolute must if you want to produce any kind of polymer, or as we know it, plastic. Rhodium is king if you want to transform gases into feedstock chemicals. And my personal favorite, palladium, has turned medicinal chemistry into Lego, saving millions of lives. And the cool part is that you need a little bit to do a lot, because most of these reactions are catalytic, meaning you need grams to convert tons. I find it quite poetic that we managed to turn something so inert, with some ingenuity, into something that powers our lives. I think we can do the same with things we don't really value today, like trash, to make a meaningful change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anton. That was a great presentation. I love your little brick of gold.
Yes.
And I must say that science is always expensive, but your science sounds particularly expensive.
You'd be surprised, pleasantly surprised, actually.
Right. Do we have any questions from the jury?
Two quick chemistry questions, I guess. First one, how does aqua regia work? And second, can you recycle these valuable catalysts after reaction so that you can reuse them multiple times, giving the value of your brick?
Of course, of course. So, in general, aqua regia is a very, very old invention. It's been invented by alchemists thinking that eating gold is nice and cool and all that. We figured out it's not that interesting, but the point is that usually what it does, aqua regia, is a mixture of two acids, right? The thing is, one acid, on their own, both acids sort of dissolve gold, but then gold redeposits back. So it's like the equilibrium is shifted towards the actual gold. But the thing is that when you have a combination of both, one acid dissolves the gold and the other acid fixes the gold in the solution. So technically, it helps out in dissolving the actual thing. And to address your second question, it's a little bit outside of my field, but in general, you can recycle these things. And there's a lot of efforts to recycle gold and all of that, mostly because it's actually quite easy to repurify gold or redo it. Like if you just have an alloy, you can just melt it down and reforge it. But if you have something chemically in the gold, let's say you have an alloy with like white gold or rose gold, you can once again redissolve it, right? And then just re-separate all the components. That's more or less the general gist of it.
Thank you.
Great. Wonderful. So thanks a lot, and let's give Anton another great round of applause. So we're coming to our third participant tonight, Awanish Pandey. Hello, welcome on stage. And he has told me about his 2-day rugby career, which tragically ended with a broken hand. So let us hope that his talk does not end with a similarly broken hand. And I'm very excited to hear him.
Yes, yes. Thank you. A famous songwriter once wrote that all other girls are like the sunsets, but you, my love, you are like the northern lights. Obviously, the songwriter had no idea about physics or how the northern lights work. Let's see. The major source of energy on Earth is our sun. However, in addition to the sunlight, the sun also ejects very highly energetic charged particles, like the protons, which sometimes are directed towards Earth. Thanks to our magnetic field, these charged particles are diverted toward the magnetic poles instead of striking us. In the upper atmosphere of these poles, these charged particles strike elements like oxygen and nitrogen, emitting tiny bursts of colorful light that we witness as the northern lights. Though we are safe from the catastrophe of these charged particles because of the magnetic field of Earth, not everything is as fortunate. One of them are the satellites which orbit the Earth. These satellites contain huge amount of electronic components and send data back to Earth in the form of bits, which can be either zeros or ones. These bits might contain very crucial information, such as the weather forecast or an alien attack. But everything can change if these charged particles come and start striking these bits and changing their values. Let's see. Suppose that the satellite is sending a bit 0, and a charged particle came and hit it, and it changed to 1. Another charged particle came and it hit this bit again, and it went back to 0. Now it might look like that nothing has changed because the bit first went from 0 to 1 and 1 to 0. But actually, multiple strikes to the satellite means that the data coming from the satellite is not very reliable. What do we do about it then? One of the solutions is found in a very unexpected place, our birth dates. Consider this. What is the minimum number of people required in a room so that the probability that two of us share the same birth date is more than 50%, more than just chance? The answer is 23. You only need 23 people. In fact, I can see more than 23 people in this room, so the odds are very high that two of us share the same birth date. And how do we use it for the sun particles attacking our bits? We draw an equivalence. One birth date being shared by two people is equivalent to one bit changing its value twice. So what we do, we measure the number of times the bit has changed its value, and we assign probabilities to them. If the probability comes out to be very large, then we change our electronic circuits. So just by fiddling around with our birth dates, millions of dollars every year can be saved. So next time when you want to enjoy your romantic northern lights and check for the weather forecast on your weather app for the clear blue sky, just remember this peculiar connection between the northern lights and the and the satellites, our birth dates. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Awanish. Yeah, now we know that songwriters don't know as much about Northern
Nothing at
Lights
all.
as we now do,
Yeah.
thanks to you. Are there any questions from the jury?
I don't want to display my musical ignorance, but who's this quote from?
It was some American singer, James Ritt, or someone, I forgot. I didn't want to take the name because I thought it won't be very nice thing to do. But the science illiterate songwriters, yeah.
So you mentioned that if the probabilities of these errors are too high,
Yeah.
that you try to change the electronics somehow.
Yes.
Maybe, is there a quick description of what sort of things you could change to prevent these errors?
That's a very complicated question. There are n number of things that we can do. The best thing we do, the easiest thing we do is from the design phase. So when we design an electronic circuit, we kind of know from what might have gone wrong for these bits to flip. So sometimes because we are cramming more and more, like we are making the electronics very small, so sometimes the smaller size of the electronics is the culprit. So in that for that particular slot of electronics, we make them bigger. That's one of the easiest solutions.
Okay. So let's give Awanish another big round of applause.
Thank you so much.
And now we come back down from the skies and we welcome Ruchi Magnolia on the stage. She has shared with me that she actually has a science podcast and she is so into eating and foods that she has recently made an episode all around Indian desserts. So please welcome her with a big applause on stage.
Have you ever wondered what's common between salad dressings and brain diseases? Yes, you heard that right. Salad dressings and brain diseases. No, I'm not saying salad dressings give you brain diseases. I'm saying salad dressings can replicate what is happening inside a brain cell. You see, this salad dressing has two liquids which don't mix with each other. They remain separated. Even though they are in the liquid phase, they are separated. This phenomena is called as liquid-liquid phase separation. Wait, let me give you some context. What am I talking about? Liquid-liquid phase separation? Brain cells? I'm talking about the disease amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS. It's the one that affected the famous physicist who used a robot to speak with people, or the baseball player who was forced to give up his sports career because of this devastating disease. It's also the one from the 2014 Ice Bucket Challenge. Remember that? Yeah. So coming back to salad dressings and ALS. Just like the way oil is separating from the vinegar in this salad dressing, the molecular agents that are thought to cause ALS do the exact same thing in the liquid environment of the brain cell. Today I have with me a model of this molecular agent. This little flimsy guy that you see over here does exactly what oil is doing in vinegar. Now, everything's good. The molecular agent is working. The cell is doing fine. It's all functional. Amazing. But if you let the salad dressing alone, what happens over time? The oil separates from the vinegar, right? So you can rescue your salad dressing by simply shaking it, and you're good to go. But the poor brain cell has no rescue. What happens is that this little flimsy guy will recruit more and more of its friends inside the droplet until there's no space left, and everything soon turns solid. Imagine having a solid in a liquid brain cell, inside the liquid environment of the brain cell. It can easily stop the cell from functioning and there's cell death. Now, my role as a droplet savior is to actually figure out how certain chemical marks on this little flimsy guy here could actually stop all of this from happening. I believe that these chemical marks could potentially not allow this guy to recruit more of its friends inside the droplets, leading to no risk of solid formation, no risk of cell death. Now, as I go figure out this hypothesis, I'm sure the next time you make a salad dressing, you will definitely remember the droplet science of ALS. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruchi. I love that you actually use a food metaphor for your talk here as well. Great. Do we have any questions for Ruchi?
More attractive would be to do like in the the salad dressing, do something to the solid and jiggle it back into solution. Any approaches for that?
I mean, for the salad dressing, yes, we can.
No, for that.
If I knew the approach, my problem would be solved. I would like have my PhD already. At this point, we just know that there is this kind of aggregate formation. That's what I was referring to, like amyloid plaques that you might have heard in other diseases. And as of now, what is known about these aggregates is that they are mostly resistant to all chemical and biological agents. So at this moment, we don't know. Yeah.
Yep. Another one?
Are there already any drugs that use these chemical markers as a target in other diseases or also in this one?
So there was one of these studies which tried to push the cell towards having more of these chemical marks. But then what they'll end up seeing is that it caused many other side effects. So it was not exactly the approach to just simply increase them. So there has to be a balance somewhere on increasing, decreasing, because these are marks which actually have cellular functions which regulate the functioning of most proteins inside the cell. So that's why.
Great. All right. With this,
Thank you
again for your great talk.
Thanks.
I think I'm going to push the table away so that you have a little bit more space. Now we are going to welcome Tania Miguel Trabajo on stage here. She is actually so bad at running that her walking speed is faster than her running speed. So let's see what her talking speed is like. And please welcome her on stage with a big applause.
Well, hello everybody. So I'm a microbiologist and I specialize in studying the social life of bacteria. So as you may already know, bacteria are these tiny organisms that we cannot see with our naked eyes, yet they are all around us. We mostly know them for the harm that they can cause to us in the form of diseases, but the truth is that the vast majority of bacteria live their lives peacefully in the environment. Well, peacefully may not be the best way to describe it. You see, life out there is not easy, and bacteria have to face challenges that sometimes lead into violent situations. Let me explain. Imagine that I'm a bacterium and that I love chocolate. In fact, I need chocolate to survive. Now, here I have found a very nice place with abundant chocolate, so I decide to settle down. However, a few days later, other bacteria that also like chocolate decide to move into my neighborhood. But you know, chocolate is not unlimited, and I need it. And they are eating so much. I'm going to have to kill them. Interestingly enough, as a bacterium, I have many different ways to do so. For example, for this neighbor on my left, I'm going to use my personal favorite, the secretion system. This is basically a very long needle that I can deploy from my body and use it to stab my neighbor and inject toxins into his body so he gets poisoned and eventually dies. Elegant. For my neighbor on my right, though, I'm rather use something more dramatic. Since apart from eating my chocolate, he's very annoying. So I'm gonna use bacteriocins. So bacteriocins are more like an anti-personal mine. So as a bacterium, I can release bacteriocins in the environment, and when my neighbor passes through, the bacteriocins stick to his body and weaken the envelope that holds him together until he will eventually explode. So now I'm assured that I have enough chocolate for myself. Now, of course, bacteria are not just fighting all the time. In fact, we believe that most of them are actually helping each other so they can make out the most out of the environment. So today I just had time to tell you about their violent side, but maybe next time I can tell you about how they collaborate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tanya. I will make sure that I don't eat any of your dessert tonight, just to be sure. Are there any questions from the judges?
Can you give an example of where this killing shows an effect in daily life for us?
In daily life? So actually, all these killing weapons are very common in bacteria in general. Like, I could not tell you specific species in our gut, for example, like Matthias was talking about, that will deploy them, but the soil, which is what I study, is like full of bacterial species that have either one weapon or the other. They always have something to protect themselves. And I guess it makes sense because it's really not easy to make the life out there, and you have a lot of competition, not many resources, so you really need to put your stuff together and look for yourself, I guess.
Okay, anything else? Yeah?
You focused on bacteria. Of course, there's plenty of other stuff in the soil. There's fungi. There might be some algae even, or some plant roots. God, how does that complicate the picture further?
Sorry, how is that?
How does that further complicate the picture? They might also eat your chocolate. You need different approaches.
Well, you put a plant there, a root, it will be like the chocolate that I was talking about. Everybody wants it because it's very rich, full of nutrients. So it actually attracts a very rich community of bacteria. But as I said, we believe that most of the time bacteria are actually collaborating. So it's not about killing each other, even they have the ways, but more about, okay, I eat this chocolate for you, you cannot open it. I open it for you, I eat half of it, the rest you can have it, and so on. So they become like a chain reaction where each of them can do part of the digestion, and in the end, everybody can live in harmony.
Great. Thanks a lot, Tanya.
I will get rid of the clock.
Yeah, let's put your balloons living in harmony. Great. So now we welcome Anish Kirtana on stage, and he, earlier in his life, has actually been a tiger safari guide. So I'm really excited what story he has to tell us. Let's welcome him on stage.
Psychedelics, literally translating to mind-manifesting substances. These include chemicals such as LSD, MDMA, and psilocybin, more commonly known as acid, ecstasy, and magic mushrooms. Now, most audiences have a spectrum of reaction when they hear about it, all the way from roaring cheers to absolute disgust. My goal is to bring this perspective together towards mutual curiosity. Now, humans have been consuming psychedelics for thousands of years, but the research into using them for treating mental illnesses only really began in the 50s and the 60s. However, despite promising results, the research was halted in the 70s due to socio-political reasons. Now, psychedelics, or specifically psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, that is a series of talk therapy sessions with a trained professional, including only 1 or 2 psychedelic experiences. Patients undergoing such treatment have experienced significant and unprecedented relief from illnesses such as anxiety, depression, PTSD, and substance addictions. On top of it all, psychedelics themselves are not very toxic or not very addictive themselves. And think of the challenge we have today of the global mental health crisis. 1 in 8 people on our planet suffers from a mental health disorder. Psychedelics are more effective than conventional talk therapy, and they happen to be very effective, more effective than pharmaceuticals such as antidepressants. For me particularly, the most interesting part is the mechanism. Unlike other medication, they don't treat the symptom, but they go towards the root neurological cause of the diseases. One hypothesis is that psychedelics work on the default mode network. That's a network in our brain that connects different parts. It's usually active when we're thinking or introspective or imagining. Patients undergoing psychedelic treatment, we've seen that they also have a lot of activation in this part. So what we think psychedelics do is they connect different parts of the brain that were not talking to each other before for a small period of time, they start to communicate. And through that experience, the patient seems to have a healing experience. But all of that has also revealed how our brain is working and how the brain takes a lot of stimulus and creates the reality we experience. So through psychedelics, not only can we treat the global mental health crisis we're facing, but also finally reveal how our brain puts together everything to create the unique reality we all experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Anish. That was on the second. Awesome. Yeah, other questions from the jury?
So this idea of synaptic plasticity that you were saying might be the root. I recently spoke to a neuroscientist, and he said that this is greatly exaggerated in these days with the psychedelics, because actually the brain has to be stable and it shouldn't grow new connections so easily, because we need to have a default modus how to act quickly. So we cannot have a too plastic brain. Can you just comment on that?
Absolutely. And that is, right? You don't want to have new plasticity everywhere. For instance, the memory part of your brain, you don't want to mess up your memories, for instance. Psychedelics, I think the interesting part is they attack only one brain receptor called 5-HT2A receptor, which is present in very particular parts. So the effect is quite isolated towards our perception of reality, of our autobiographical thoughts, a lot of things that cause diseases such as depression, anxiety, PTSD, and so on. But of course, we do need more research on it to have more targeted compounds. Right now, we have what we have from nature, but I'm sure we can synthetically design new molecules and target more specific brain receptors to have a more targeted effect and not have any external impact beyond the treatment.
Any other question? Yeah.
So I would be curious as to how present this is now in Switzerland. Obviously, you're working on this, but are there lots of public trials already? Is this something that can be tried, like that you can try out, or how is the acceptance in Switzerland?
Well, I'm not personally working on this topic. I'm an environmental molecular ecologist. But in Switzerland, actually, if you do have something such as treatment-resistant depression, if you have tried other things, you can enroll in a program with your therapist to undergo psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. Switzerland is actually one of the few countries that did not have as big of an embargo on psychedelics as the rest of the world. So actually, we happen to be in a good place where a lot of the current research is based on Swiss clinical trial foundations. So it's one of the few places actually where you can get the help you need. Thank you, great question.
Great. Thank you. Thanks a
you.
lot. Let's give him another big round of applause. And now we welcome Eline Gossens on stage. And she has told me that as a child, she has won a strawberry poem competition. Isn't that awesome? Okay, and so I'm very excited to hear what she has to tell us about today. Please, welcome on stage.
So, before I start, it might still get sunny today, so let me just... What did I just rub on myself? If you're saying sunscreen, you are of course correct, but I also rubbed nanoparticles on my body. So, why am I not panicking? Well, to understand this, you need to know what nanoparticles are, what they are used for, and if we can trust them. The term nanoparticle might sound exotic, but it basically just means that it's a particle which is very, very small. 1 nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter. To give you an idea of how small this is, take a look at this tennis ball. Now, imagine it 100 times smaller. Got it? Now imagine this 100 times smaller again. And again, and again, and again, and again, until you've done this 1,000,000 times. This is 1 nanometer. So, why do we bother with making materials so small? Well, when we go to a size this tiny, our material follows different rules compared to normal bulk-sized materials. For example, there is a class of nanomaterials which can emit colors. When they're small, they emit blue colors. But take the same material and make it just a few nanometers bigger, and now it emits red colors, simply by changing the size. Because of this, they're often used in displays, and chances are that some of you have a TV at home which has these nanomaterials in the screen. Of course, that's not their only application. Nanosilver is used in food packaging. Iron oxide nanoparticles are used to kill tumor cells. And sunscreen is made up of titanium dioxide nanoparticles. They're truly used everywhere. But how safe are they really? What happens once they enter the body? This is, of course, heavily researched, and we're learning more and more every day about how the nanoparticle type, its size, its shape, all affect the toxicity. For the titanium dioxide in my sunscreen, they found no toxicity, even at high concentrations. So, I don't have to worry. However, the field of nanoscience is relatively young, which means that we simply cannot know the long-term effects yet. There is no proof that it will be bad. There is no proof either that it will not be. Therefore, next time you hear of nanoparticles, I ask you to be critical, but not paranoid. After all, the particles in my sunscreen may or may not be harmful, but getting a sunburn definitely is. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, I love that. Critical, but not paranoid. Yeah. Are there any questions from our judges? I see they're all busily writing down.
Well, how long will we, long term would be 50 years or 100 years? Or
well,
when would it be considered safe in your...
Well, yeah, the field of nanoscience started in like 1960. Then there was this talk of this person, Richard Feynman. If you've seen Oppenheimer, he has a cameo in it. And that's kind of the start of nanoscience. Well, it took us a few decades to finally make nanoparticles and to then finally use them in applications. But to really know on a long-term effect, we still need a couple of decades. They've been doing lots of research, but they usually kind of look at just put particles in cells, how do they react, do they die or not? But we don't really know chronic exposure, how will that affect our health in the long term? So it will really take still a couple of decades before we finally start to see these first effects.
All right. So if there are no other questions, then thanks a lot, Aline, for the wonderful presentation. Wow, so many great participants already. There are only 2 more left. One of them is Santiago Perez Bernal. and he really likes mushrooms and haven't asked which kind. So let's welcome him on stage with a huge applause.
The sky is falling! Why are my crops failing? I have worked so hard for you, and yet you have faltered. I am deeply sorry. You see, I am a smallholder farmer from the global south. And there are about 500 million farmers like me. And together we support over 2 billion human beings on this planet. Yet, in the light of climate change, it is getting very difficult for us to make ends meet. That is because, you see, amigos, conventional fertilizers, they are like McDonald's for plant nutrition. They are quick and convenient, but they lead to very weak root systems. And when the drought comes from the climate change, then plants have no chance. The sky is falling for us farmers are those scenarios when we lose our crops. But you see, I'm not only a farmer, I'm also an entrepreneur. And I think I have a solution. You see, it's called biofertilizers. That is, fertilizers made out of living things. And then the picture looks different. You see, here, these microbes inhabit the root systems of plants, and they can make resources accessible for them that otherwise wouldn't be. For example, there are the nitrogen-fixing rhizobacteria that can fix nitrogen from the air and make it available for plants. What is more, there are the PGPRs. Those are no DJs from the ground, but plant growth-promoting rhizobacteria that can solubilize difficult elements such as phosphorus for plants to acquire. And finally, and most importantly, the arbuscular mycorrhiza fungi. That is fungi that can massively expand the root systems of plants so that they have more access to water and nutrients. So you see, the next time that you feel like the sky is falling, don't look up, look down to these wonderful microorganisms that are ready to team up with us so that we can sustainably intensify agriculture and also its resilience. Muchas gracias.
Great, thank you, Santiago. Yeah, now I'm really pitying those plants that have to eat McDonald's every day. Do we have questions from the judges?
Are these already in production, and what's the difference to compost these biofertilizers?
No, so in my research that I'm doing a PhD in this stuff, and you can multiply them. It's the wording. You can multiply the microbes, and yeah, we're still trying to see if they're cost efficient, because it's a bit difficult to multiply them.
So do you need to introduce them, or are they there, but they need to be nurtured to multiply?
There are different approaches, but most of them are already there. But what we do is that we introduce them together with an environment, a setting, that can allow them to stay longer in the soil.
Great. So thanks a lot for your talk.
Thank you.
And with this, it is time to welcome our last participant on the stage today. It's Lian Smeding, and she will bring a plushie with her that she has made herself. So let's give her a huge round of applause.
Next patient, Mr. Totro. Welcome to the T-cell laboratory. Totro here is a T-cell, and T-cells are cells of your immune system. Sorry? Apologies. T-cells are the superheroes of your immune system. They fight viruses and bacteria, but did you guys know that they even fight your very own cells when needed? Why? Because sometimes your own cells make a mistake, and they gain the ability to multiply, but they lose their ability to function. And that's how you can develop cancer. That's what's happening in your human? You want to fight the cancer cells, but can't quite manage? Don't worry, you came to the right place. In this laboratory, we offer turbo T-cell treatment. This is where we install an extra molecule on the T-cell that has him ready to fight the cancer in no time. This molecule is called a CAR, not a driving one. It stands for chimeric antigen receptor, or CAR, but no need to worry about that. Before we get started, let's fill them in on your backstory. So Totro's human has cancer, and the doctors thought that he qualified for CAR T-cell immunotherapy. So what they did is they took some of the blood and sent it to our laboratory. And we fished out the very best T-cells, and Totro here was selected. So we will give Totro his special molecule, the CAR, and then he'll go back to his human to fight the cancer cells there. Are you ready? Not quite? Perhaps it would help if you understood better how the therapy worked. So let me see what you have here. It's a list: cancer cell recognition, combat fighting skills, super stamina. Here's the deal. T-cells need a lot of skills to fight cancer, and they need to unlock those skills. But to unlock those skills, they need to engage in many interactions. This can be interactions with other cells, interactions with other molecules. And these interactions need to happen in many different locations in your body. So can you imagine how hard it is to unlock all those skills? This is where CAR T-cell therapy comes in. Totro, this is for you. You can imagine CAR T-cell therapy as a key, a master key, that lets the T-cell unlock all of its skills at once, so then when it finds the cancer cells in the body, it's ready to attack. Totro, you're ready now. Go and save your human. For you guys, the next time you hear about CAR T-cell therapy, you can brag to your friends and explain that this is actually not about last week's Formula 1 racing, but about giving a molecule to a T-cell to empower them to fight cancer. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. Yeah, there was a great talk. I loved it because I'm also a personal big fan of T-cells. I've done research on T-cells myself, so yeah, really loved that one. Are there any questions from our judges?
So one of the challenges with this therapy is the costs associated with it. Any hope of getting the price down so that we can have more Totros save their humans without breaking the system?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're working on it. I'm personally not really dealing with the clinical side, but yeah, for sure, CAR T-cell therapy is very personalized. So for every patient, they need to make this specifically for them. So it's very expensive currently, you're right. I think as they develop the technology and things become more streamlined, it will get cheaper. Also, they're working on one thing, which is where you wouldn't need to make the therapy for one person every time. They're working on getting cells that can be used for multiple patients. So this is, I'm not entirely sure if they're ready to do clinical trials with this, but this is definitely on the way and it would greatly help in cost reduction.
Anything else? If not, then thank you, Liam, for the last presentation of the evening. So, what a ride it has been. 9 talks from all over the whole world of science. So, the judges are going to have some time now to debate what I'm sure is an extremely hard question to answer. Which of our participants has made the best show for the evening? And in the meantime, I will like to invite all of the participants of tonight back on stage, and we can have a little Q&A session with them, and you can ask them anything that you're interested in. Also, I think there might be a link for the online audience to submit questions. I'm not sure about that though. Yeah, please, all the participants, don't be shy, come on stage. And another big round of applause, please. So, how was it? How are you feeling? Relieved, yes? Yeah, I think everyone did a really great job. I loved all of the talks. Great. Are there any questions from anyone in the audience? Can be to any of the participants, any of the topics. Anything that has made you particularly curious or that you're still wondering about now? Yes, please. How can you make money with your research?
I think I will go first. I exposed, I think, my business plan here. And thank you. So I think my business plan still has some holes, but it's definitely very promising.
I think in my field, it might be, the application would be maybe to feed these beneficial microbes that protect the livestock against pathogens to swine or to chickens or something. And so this might protect the whole flock or whole herd of animals from pathogenic bacteria. And in turn might also then protect us when we eat these animals, right?
I make a specific type of nanoparticles that can be used for CT scans to improve the contrast. So if anyone would be interested in buying those, you can always come to me and I'll make some money out of it.
So I think I have already discussed about satellites, but the things that we make, they are also used for nuclear sites wherever particles collide, in fact. So for example, at CERN, we will use it in 4 or 5 years for the Large Hadron Collider, the exact same thing that I was talking about. The physics part, not the birthday part, of course. And so, I mean, I'm not going to make a lot of money out of it, but for sure a lot of science out of it.
Less serious answer, selling the lab chemicals. More serious answer, if you get any of those complexes that is potent enough to do relatively simple transformations, you can patent it, you can make it into an industrial process, make tons of stuff, patent it, get some company to buy it. That's the usual path.
He already has kilos of gold, so he's already rich.
Well, that's a difficult question. I speak a little bit maybe for all scientists. I feel like we wouldn't be scientists if we wanted to make money. I think we try to solve problems and help people and things like that. So I personally need to work on the money part. Like, I don't have a good answer.
I think for all things medicine, we'll be billing the insurance companies, and with that, all of us. So I think we should be hoping that we won't be making too much money out of this.
In my case, I don't think there's a specific point where we can make money out of it. I guess in my lab, we are lucky enough to be looking for very fundamental answers in science, which do not have specifically a target for an application, but advance in general the whole topic. So of course it will have at some point an application that maybe gives money, not to us probably, anyway, but yeah, in my case it's more fundamental based, so.
I agree with Tanya because I also work on something which is so fundamental that I don't think in the next 20 years at least I can make money from it. But what I can make money from is by selling all the protein that I make in the lab to do my research. So I definitely do have a business plan in the back of my head if my career doesn't go well.
Great, thank you. Are there any more questions from the audience. Can also be to one of the participants specifically. Yes.
So actually, there are 3-4 ways how we protect the satellites and other things which are prone to such challenges. One of them is actually shielding them. So if you see most of the NASA satellites or whatever that goes outside, you see a gold plate around it, right? You see this golden looking thing around it. Yeah. So yes, we can cover it, but it's a very hunter-gatherer kind of solution. So sometimes it doesn't work. Depends a lot on what is the energy of the charge particle that is going to attack your circuits. If they are very highly energetic, they can just break all the barriers and destroy your circuit. So, yeah. Yes. Software side, yes. So there is what he is actually asking very detailed questions. So there are 3 layers of solution. One is the software side, one is the design side, one is the hardware side. So what I was talking about was from the hardware side. He's talking about from the software side. So yes, there are research going on, and because the physics of it is so evolving, for example, for the Large Hadron Collider, we are going to upgrade the energy of the particles colliding. So in fact, we don't even know what will happen. So once we see what has actually happened, then we come back to our lab, and then we see what can be changed. So for example, in the initial days, like 1780s, there are examples of satellites that went outside. They were completely destroyed, and we didn't even know what to do. So we got the satellite back, we got the electronics back, and then we analyzed that, okay, this might have gone wrong, and after that we corrected it. So it's actually a very evolving field from all the fronts. Because the mic is with me, I will just answer, and then I can pass around the mic. Pay your science communicators more. That's the only solution. So science communication is kind of thought of as a very sacred kind of thing that you can do even if you don't get paid a lot. Pay your science communicators a truckload of money. That's how you can improve this thing. Just like we have improved a lot in other areas of science, that people can do very good science because they are funded by the government with a lot of money. Pay your science communicators also. Don't just consider it as a side job that scientists can do because they are doing science anyway. No, if you need good communicators, pay them more. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Also, just in general, events like this, I think, help a lot to kind of make science more approachable. When I talk to my grandparents about nanoparticles, they're immediately like, oh, nano, I don't get this. Well, it's quite easy, but they're just scared that they will not get it. So things like this to show it's not that difficult as you think it is, I think that helps a lot to make it more understandable. Also, in this way, weed out any misinformation that might be going around. Because if people understand it, then there cannot be any misinformation, in theory.
So I think that science can be very complicated, but I guess the charm of trying to convey it in a way that it's understandable, I think is the best shield against misinformation, because if you transmit misinformation in such a way that it's understood, people would probably get that it's not real. So I think that maybe that's a good way to combat that.
Actually, I was thinking on the same lines, that sometimes when we as scientists who are not usually trained in communication bring in our, let's say, analogies or ways of talking to people, we forget that our common language is not everyone's common language. And that's where the disconnect comes in, and it can many a times lead people to get the wrong information. So this way, there's nobody who did the job not so well. It's just a misunderstanding that happened during the communication. So I think starting younger, like when we get into science, I think an important lesson that we, the future scientists, need to learn is also how to communicate our science. Because as Anna said in the very beginning, that science is a enterprise funded by public money. So we who are doing science need to be taught how to talk to people very young, rather than after our PhD or once we are established scientists or something. Also, agree with Avanish's point that pay science communicators. We are people who are happy to talk about science to other people. Pay us and we'll do it for the scientists.
I think that is actually very interesting because I always focus whenever I'm trying to communicate. I first listen and I see where the misconceptions are, and then I try to design talks or design communication to address those particularly, because I think science remains more memorable if you have a switch or a change of perspective. So if your misconception is removed, I think that is the point of communicating science. So I think as science communicators, we should also be listening to a lot more misinformation to see what are the common threads that people are getting wrong, and what's old information and things like that.
Yeah, it seems like we just have a collective argument over here. It's just like a synthesis on the stage. But what I wanted to add to that particular collective argument is that we as science communicators, as we all apparently are, and in general, like, we need to know our audiences too, right? You cannot just wander in, just tell something about something, and then basically what will happen is just that the message flies like, over the head, or just like, lies flat because the audience was not there, right? Plus, misinformation could be very, very different in the way that it is presented and in the way that it is rooted. Because sometimes you have very surface level misinformation, but sometimes you have very deep rooted misinformation. And if it's like a surface level, it's just like, oh, I thought that felt different. It's like, okay, that's quite interesting. But if it's very deep rooted, you're not only now deconstructing misinformation, you might be starting to deconstruct the person who is misinformed, right? And it's quite important to actually get on the side so that the new information that you get is not only hurtful to the person and their worldview and in general.
Great answers. Thank you a lot. And I think it is now time that we head into a well-deserved break. Let's have another big round of applause to all of our wonderful participants tonight. Thank you so much for having come here, having prepared this talk. I absolutely loved all of them. I'm sure we will find all of them at the bar, so if you have further questions, don't hesitate to approach them there. And yeah, let's have a 15-minute break, and then we will hear the decision of our judges. All right. So, don't want to make it too exciting for you, don't want to make you wait too long. So, without further ado, please, Natasha, welcome on stage. And would you let us know what the jury has decided and why?
Wait, I have to come on stage now as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yes, I thought I could do this from the safety of the table over there, but now I have to stand up here after all. So first of all, congratulations to everyone. You all did an amazing job. I'm always really impressed with all of the talks at FameLab, regardless of whether it's the semifinals or the finals. I think everyone, just the fact that you're here and that you've put yourself out there to talk about the science that you do or science that others do in 3 minutes is incredible, really. So I think everyone deserves a big round of applause. But as this is a competition, we were tasked to find 2 finalists. And so without further ado, I would like to announce those. And starting with number 2, we were very impressed by the storytelling, the way that it felt like a little game. And so number 2, and a winner, definitely, for sure, would be Lian. So your use of the prop was absolutely adorable. It really helped bring everyone in. Obviously, it's also a relevant topic, which is fantastic to help us better understand, but it was super clear. I think everyone could follow it even without having a background in T cells or even biology. And so really fantastic job. As So, shall we move on to our winner? So again, this was generally a trend. The props today were all super, and we really, really loved the use of this one. And so our first place goes to Tanya.
Come on up on stage.
So also to Tanya, again, amazing use of the props. It felt so natural. It was very engaging. You know, we could feel exactly how you felt about killing these other bacteria. It was very intense, but just really great job. So thank you very much to both of you, to everyone who participated today. Great job.
So, congratulations also from my side to the 2 of you. And we do actually have a 3rd winner, and that is the winner of the public voting, because the audience here decided that their personal favorite talk comes from Ruchi. So please also welcome Ruchi on stage. Congratulations.
Good. I also have here certificates for. So again, congratulations. Oh, I think one more is coming. And the audience prize. So congratulations, great job. And that is on behalf of all of the judges, of course.
Wonderful. Lovely, lovely. Congratulations again. Thanks a lot. You can go back to your places. And then there is not much more to do tonight. There is one person that I would like to call on stage just to give a huge thanks and a huge round of applause to Sevi Kouvoros, who is the main organizer of this event. Thanks a lot, Sevi.
Well, first of all, thank you, Anna. You were a great moderator today. Can we count on you next year as well? Let's see. I'll fix the date now. So thank you to our jury members. Really happy to have you with us tonight. It was a great pleasure. Thank you all for participating, for being here. Thanks to the crew here, Moritz and colleagues. It was great fun. Yeah, I don't have anything much more to say. As most of you know, we're going to have dinner together, so just stick around for a while, and then we can all go together. And yeah, see you next year.
Okay.